Bom dia, bem-vindos a mais uma sessão de webinars dedicados aos mercados internacionais e ao impacto do Covid-19 nos mercados internacionais. O meu nome é Eduardo Henriques, eu sou diretor da área de Digital e Comunicação da AICEP e hoje vamos ter o mercado da Suíça como o mercado foco, digamos assim. Esta é mais uma iniciativa que se enquadra dentro de um quadro mais geral de eventos que a AICEP está a organizar, de webinars. Queria-vos dizer que, de facto, esta é uma iniciativa que vamos continuar a repetir ao longo das próximas semanas e que vários mercados serão abrangidos. Proximamente teremos vários eventos dedicados à área, aos mercados internacionais, nomeadamente à Suécia, aos Estados Unidos, à Irlanda, à Hungria. E ao longo do próximo mês de junho vamos continuar a desenvolver algumas iniciativas nesta área e em particular na área do e-commerce, que agora ganha mais força nesta nova situação que estamos a viver todos. Queria-vos também alertar para um facto mais do ponto de vista técnico, é que durante esta sessão agradecia que todos os microfones e todas as câmaras estivessem desligadas, por forma a que não perturbassem a sessão. Hoje vamos ter duas intervenções, uma que terá a primeira da nossa colega diretora do escritório em Berna, Ana Rosas, que depois dará lugar a uma apresentação mais prolongada do Sr. Patrick Kessler, que vai-nos também expor e, sobretudo, vai desenvolver o tema do e-commerce na Suíça, neste momento, e, sobretudo, dentro deste quadro global que estamos a viver. Eu não me alongaria muito mais, apenas desejar-vos uma boa sessão e todas as questões, e isso é um ponto importante que eu queria só sublinhar para finalizar, todas as questões podem ser colocadas através do chat, nós selecionaremos depois as questões no final e as questões que não forem possíveis de ser respondidas, nesta sessão poderão depois ser respondidas ou por e-mail, ou por contacto direto com a nossa delegação, ou por contacto direto com o nosso orador principal, ou também através dos vossos gestores de cliente. E agora sim, eu passo a palavra à Ana Rosas para introduzir o tema. Muito obrigado. Até já.
Muito obrigada e muito bom dia. Eu espero que me ouçam bem e que vejam bem os slides que tenho para vos apresentar. Vou fazer uma introdução ao tema que depois será tratado pelo orador a que convidamos, o Sr. Kessler. E, antes de mais, então, muito bom dia, senhoras e senhores empresários, caros colegas. Venho falar-vos do mercado suíço, tal como hoje, ainda durante a pandemia Covid-19, se revela. Sem dados económicos firmes, o mercado... As autoridades suíças têm tomado posições cautelosas nas análises que fazem e eu farei exatamente o mesmo, mas coloco-me à disposição para trabalhar convosco e apresentar os vossos produtos e serviços como solução para os desafios que hoje se colocam a este mercado. Então, em jeito de introdução, com uma população próxima dos 8,5 milhões de habitantes e um PIB nominal estimado em 2019 que atinge quase os 700 mil milhões de francos suíços, o PIB per capita de 80.990 francos suíços, colocam a Suíça, quanto a este segundo indicador, como a segunda economia do mundo, logo após o Luxemburgo. 74% do produto interno bruto é originado pelo setor dos serviços, com um forte peso do setor imobiliário, do comércio, do setor financeiro e do turismo, e 25% pela indústria, com enfoque na indústria química, farmacêutica, máquinas e metalurgia. E um pouco menos de 1% advém da agricultura, cujo peso continua a decrescer. O principal mercado externo da Suíça é a União Europeia, de onde são originárias 78% das importações e para onde se destinam 43% das exportações, e o tecido empresarial é composto em mais de 99% por PMEs. O segredo do sucesso empresarial suíço reside essencialmente nos mais de 3% do PIB que destina a investigação e desenvolvimento e que impulsionam o saber fazer e a reputação internacional de qualidade e fiabilidade dos produtos e serviços suíços. Organizamos então esta apresentação em 4 temas, 3 e depois um momento para perguntas, e vamos então entrar de imediato no impacto económico da pandemia. Pandemia que desde o final de 2019 é vivida no mundo em geral, atingiu de forma clara a Suíça, como podem verificar pelo ecrã, que hoje conta com um pouco menos de 31.000 infectados detectados, mas estima-se que cerca de 10% da população tenha sido atingida. Quanto à economia suíça, o impacto da Covid reflete-se num prognóstico de quebra do produto interno bruto entre 6,7% e 10% e um aumento da taxa de desemprego para 3,9% em 2020. Estamos a falar da mais forte quebra do produto interno bruto desde 1975. Espera-se que em 2021 o PIB volta a crescer numa taxa próxima dos 5,2%, mas ainda insuficiente para o recolocar no valor atingido em 2019, e a taxa de desemprego deve continuar ainda a subir e ultrapassar ligeiramente os 4,1% em 2021. Como pode ser verificado pelo slide, o mapa do desemprego coloca, sobretudo, os cantões francófonos nesta frente de combate. E, portanto, são também aqueles os cantões onde a maior parte da nossa diáspora portuguesa se concentra. Quanto ao impacto económico da pandemia, quanto ao índice de preços na área da produção e importação, apresentam também uma evolução claramente negativa, como pode ser verificada, tanto neste período e particularmente em abril deste ano, como já vinham tendo um comportamento negativo ao longo dos últimos 14 meses. O que há é aqui claramente um decréscimo, um declive acentuado. Quanto à deflação, em abril de 2020, ela é de 1,1%. É um reflexo claro do comportamento retrativo do mercado durante o período de impacto da pandemia. Quais os setores que foram mais afetados? Em geral, todos os setores da economia foram atingidos pela Covid-19. Falando-se em quebras de produção média de 25% no setor industrial e de 80% no setor hoteleiro e de restauração. A exceção encontra-se em alguns setores da indústria química e farmacêutica, nos setores das comunicações ou telecomunicações, bem como na distribuição de bens de primeira necessidade, que se mantiveram a laborar. As quebras nos valores de importação e exportação refletem diretamente a retração tanto dos mercados externos quanto dos internos. E com cerca de 40% da força de trabalho suíça em regime, que aqui se chama de Kurzarbeit, é um regime que permite a redução do tempo de trabalho parcial ou total e a manutenção do vínculo de trabalho, evitando assim o desemprego, o consumo privado reduziu claramente e é projetada uma quebra de 7,5% em 2020. A quebra em todos estes indicadores de conjuntura é, evidentemente, clara. Quanto aos problemas logísticos, estes foram prontamente atacados pelas autoridades e pela sociedade em geral e restam, de momento, questões relativas à ligação com o exterior, nomeadamente quanto à entrada e saída de pessoas e de alguns muito escolhidos bens nas fronteiras terrestres e na aviação. As viagens em turismo e o comércio de fronteira não são ainda permitidos. Não aconselhamos uma visita imediata à Suíça para a prestação de trabalhos, de serviços, exceto se tratada toda a burocracia necessária e aprovada a visita pelas autoridades. Colhemos informação sobre o tema que podemos partilhar com quem estiver interessado. Entramos agora no tema de uma abordagem ao mercado. Focamo-nos, então, primeiro na balança comercial deste mercado da Suíça. As exportações sustentaram-se em 2019 em 51% em dois bens. Primeiro, os produtos do setor farmacêutico, com 26%, e segundo, as pedras e metais preciosos, com 25%. Depois aparecem três setores, em torno dos 7% cada, as máquinas, a química orgânica, os relógios, e são seguidos da óptica, com 5,5%, o equipamento elétrico e eletrónico, com 4%, e outros menos representativos. Em valor, ao longo dos últimos 11 meses, exportaram-se cerca de 20,5 mil milhões de francos suíços em junho de 2019 e o pico mais, o inverso, o pico, portanto, o ponto mais negativo foi agora em fevereiro, com cerca de 18,6 mil milhões de francos suíços. Quanto às importações, elas assentam primeiro em pedras preciosas e metais, e que representam 31%, e em segundo, produtos farmacêuticos com 11%. E depois temos vários setores com em torno de 5%. Os veículos, os equipamentos elétricos e eletrónicos, a química orgânica. Por fim, os fuel e óleos minerais e outros menos representativos. Em valor e ao longo dos últimos 11 meses, o pico de importações é atingido em agosto de 2019, com 17,5 mil milhões de francos suíços, e o valor mais baixo do período analisado, com 15,9 mil milhões de francos suíços, apresenta-se exatamente no mês de março deste ano. É, aliás, sobretudo o aumento das exportações de produtos químicos e farmacêuticos em 2,2% relativamente a fevereiro de 2020, mas essencialmente a quebra de importações que justifica que março deste ano tenha o maior excedente da balança comercial do período em análise, aliás, só ligeiramente ultrapassado nos últimos 70 anos pelo mês de junho de 2019. Apenas para, de uma forma muito breve, percebermos quais são as empresas que criaram raízes sucursais neste mercado. Essencialmente, elas centram-se na área dos serviços, com destaque para o setor financeiro, onde temos 9 empresas. Mas abrangem também setores industriais que, como podem ver no ecrã, os listamos. De qualquer forma, o número de empresas portuguesas com sucursais neste mercado é bastante reduzido. Temos agora dados em geral sobre que medidas de contenção foram implementadas pelo governo suíço. De alguma forma, são semelhantes a medidas impostas noutros países. A Confederação Suíça optou, no entanto, por recomendar as decisões e só muito pontualmente proibir. Responsabilizou a população em geral pelo sucesso da defesa da saúde de todos, mas agiu de uma forma mais impositiva quando se dirigiu ao tecido económico, particularmente no âmbito do comércio, do turismo, do desporto e da cultura, que tiveram mesmo de parar, enquanto que a indústria e serviços associados puderam manter-se a operar regularmente, tanto quanto foi possível durante este período. Especificamente no âmbito económico, a Confederação Helvética disponibiliza cerca de 65 mil milhões de francos suíços, que agora se discute sejam eventualmente aumentados em mais 14 mil milhões, através destas medidas de apoio. Destacamos aquelas que nos parecem mais relevantes ou de maior impacto, e são o tal regime de trabalho em horário reduzido, o Kurzarbeit, bem como o acesso a crédito ponte, crédito que permitiu responder de imediato, de uma forma muito rápida, protocolada com 123 bancos, às questões de liquidez das empresas. Portanto, foram dedicadas a esta medida cerca de 40 mil milhões de francos suíços, que não foram gastos, mas que estão na sua integralidade, mas que realmente responderam de imediato às questões de liquidez que as empresas sentiam. Agora sim, a implementação das medidas está a ser fortemente controlada. As datas de desconfinamento são estas, conforme se apresentam no slide que será partilhado convosco, toda a apresentação, aliás, mas o processo tem vindo a ser acelerado. Quase todo o comércio, a indústria, a circulação no país reabriram já, mas cuidado com a circulação de pessoas a partir do exterior, conforme já vos referi. Resta decidir, aparentemente pouco, mas estão já em curso negociações com países limítrofes e as fronteiras com a Alemanha, a Áustria ou a França reabriram já no passado fim de semana ou reabrirão em breve, mas as com a Itália ainda não. Espera-se que lá, no início de junho isso eventualmente possa acontecer. E estão a ser encontradas soluções para o turismo que poderão passar, num primeiro momento, pelo turismo interno e que depois, talvez ainda este verão, possam avançar para o turismo noutros países. De uma forma muito breve, vimos então este enquadramento e agora eu gostava de avançar claramente para as dificuldades e eventuais oportunidades que já se sentiam, mas que são reforçadas por esta crise. Sentando-nos agora no capítulo relativo às dificuldades e oportunidades de mercado, gostaria de começar por dizer que, quanto às dificuldades, na verdade, mais de 4.200 empresas portuguesas exportaram para a Suíça em 2019. Acredito que uma larga fatia destas empresas se relacione prioritariamente com empresários da diáspora portuguesa na Suíça, uma diáspora de cerca de 300 mil pessoas, que sentirão com certeza as facilidades e dificuldades típicas deste enquadramento. Quanto às restantes, que se relacionam com o mercado suíço em geral, estou certa que a clara diferença cultural, a questão da língua, da burocracia de um país fora da União Europeia, da exigência de procedimentos e de qualidade do produto-serviço, da preferência pelo que é produzido na Suíça, e se quisermos generalizar, o empresário suíço prefere o produto do seu país, claramente, desde que vai procurar o produto fora, desde que o preço seja realmente mais convidativo, mais interessante e o ajude a manter-se em preços de mercado ao longo das cadeias de fornecimento que por aqui passam. Mas a burocracia e a língua aprendem-se, como todos os empresários sabem, aqueles que comercializam com a Suíça, e as questões culturais ultrapassam-se muitas vezes encontrando parceiros locais. É um passo difícil, mas é um passo possível que eu espero que o Sr. Kessler em breve aborde também durante este webinar. Ainda para vos falar de novas oportunidades de negócio, resumiria em 3 pontos de partida que passo a referir. Um primeiro, o do poder de compra do consumidor é, com certeza na Suíça, dos mais elevados do mundo, o que torna a Suíça um mercado muito apetecível e concorrencial. O segundo, e num sentido contrário e muito específico deste momento, uma quebra de confiança do consumidor muito relevante num país de costumes conservadores e contidos. Por outro lado, ainda como ponto de partida para esta reflexão sobre oportunidades, temos aquilo que em 2019 já exportamos para a Suíça ou importamos da Suíça. E em 2019, Portugal exportou um pouco menos de 1.950 milhões de euros, verificando uma quebra na ordem dos 3% entre janeiro e março deste ano, relativamente a período idêntico de 2019, sendo expectável uma quebra muito mais significativa quando incluirmos abril nesta análise. O cabaz de produtos e serviços que exportamos para a Suíça em 2019 é composto essencialmente por 4 serviços, que no seu conjunto representam 63,4% das nossas exportações, nomeadamente viagens e turismo, transportes, outros serviços fornecidos a empresas como investigação e desenvolvimento, consultoria de gestão ou serviços técnicos e telecomunicações e TIC. Quanto aos bens, os nossos principais produtos de exportação são os veículos automóveis de passageiros, as máquinas e aparelhos, como aquecedores, os produtos alimentares, dos quais destacamos os vinhos, os plásticos e borrachas, como pneumáticos, metais comuns e químicos. Bens que, no seu conjunto, representam cerca de 20% do total exportado em 2019 por Portugal. Podemos agora, então, concentrar-nos no tema principal, o do desafio, que é agora encontrar novas oportunidades de negócio neste novo contexto. Entendo que, como fonte possível de oportunidades, o repensar das cadeias de fornecimento, discussão que está em curso também na Suíça e através da qual talvez seja possível reposicionar Portugal como solução de proximidade. Solução que tem de ser inovadora, privilegiar soluções de economia circular, sustentar-se também em instrumentos digitais de comunicação e monitorização e manter um preço equilibrado e justo. Uma segunda possível fonte de oportunidades reside na necessidade de encontrarmos novas soluções para o teletrabalho, que parece ter vindo para ficar, pelo menos parcialmente, assim o selecionam os suíços, centrando a vivência a partir de casa e obrigando a repensar o conforto e a funcionalidade da mesma, tanto no textilar como no vestuário, no calçado, no mobiliário, nos utensílios, os equipamentos de comunicação à distância, o software e a intercomunicabilidade do mesmo, destes vários softwares que teremos de utilizar e, claramente, soluções alimentares. Também as novas imposições de higiene que vão para além da lavagem constante das mãos e que atingem, por exemplo, a necessidade de lavar constantemente os têxteis de lar, desinfetar o calçado, os móveis, os utensílios, etc., são fontes de novas oportunidades. As máscaras, os equipamentos de distanciamento, etc. Bem como agora, concentrando-nos mais no tema industrial e de serviços, Suíça cria um novo instrumento de trabalho a que se chama planos de proteção. E estes planos de proteção são absolutamente obrigatórios para quem quiser ter o comércio aberto ou a indústria a funcionar, e neles estão contidas regras e imposições que são elas próprias oportunidades de negócio e que estão já a ser vistas como tal por aqueles que comercializam este tipo de soluções. Mas também em áreas de investimento específicas na Suíça encontramos oportunidades de negócio, como por exemplo o túnel de aceleração de partículas do CERN, que está a ser reconstruído ou ampliado, o edifício de comunicação das Nações Unidas, que será demolido para ser reconstruído com todas as novas instrumentos de comunicação disponíveis, e também as questões do repensar das linhas de caminho de ferro e das ligações das mesmas aos países próximos. Por outro lado, o crescimento do comércio à distância e online em contextos B2B, B2C, C2C, viram-se muito impulsionados durante esta crise. É por isso que vos trago o Sr. Patrick Kessler, que falará de imediatamente a seguir a mim, e o Sr. Kessler é, desde 2008, presidente da VSV, a Associação de Comércio à Distância da Suíça, que congrega mais de 300 empresas, e do seu extenso currículo destaco que entre 2000 e 2007 foi primeiro CFO e depois CEO da empresa de venda por catálogo VSV ASVAD, bem como representou diversas marcas na Suíça. É um profundo conhecedor do comércio online e do retalho suíço e, por isso, muito bom dia, Sr. Kessler. Tem o palco à sua disposição.
Muito obrigado. Warm welcome from Switzerland. I hope try to get into the presentation now. Just a second. So we're done. It's a pleasure to have you all here at this webinar about doing online business in Switzerland. It's a beautiful country, but as Anna explained before, sometimes it's a complicated country as well. You will have all the slides available as a presentation. There are a lot of links in it. I will run probably through the first part about what's the market like and try to do the deep dive, the more in the detailed how to get in, what to consider when you want to step into the market. So let's start. This is the agenda. As I said, I will give you an overview about the retail market. There are some side information about B2B platforms, etc. as well. And then I will mostly focus on the checklist, the non-EU factor regulation, etc., which should give you an idea how to get in, what to consider when you really want to start in Switzerland. For your information, there is a website of the government. It's translated in Portuguese as well. There you find a lot of information about Swiss characteristics, and I just copied some slides out of it to jump into the presentation. So the most important thing about Switzerland seems to be quite international, and on the other hand, it's at some point very protective, but we have quite an impressive population of Portuguese people or Portuguese-speaking people living here. We have about 300,000 people from Portugal and Brazil living in Switzerland, which makes it, after English, the most spoken foreign language within Switzerland, besides Italian, French, and German. So Switzerland is digitalized. We have a lot of access to digital services, which is impressive, is the mobile phone coverage. So we have an average of 1.3 mobile phone per person in Switzerland, which is very high and due to the digitalized environment we have. So as you all know, we have 4 national languages. I come to that point as well, and this makes the market a little bit complicated as well. On the other hand, it gives you opportunities as well, depending from which side you are attacking Switzerland. Of course, Swiss population is then focused, the German-speaking part to Germany, to Austria, the French-speaking part more to France. But as I said, it gives you also the opportunity because the competition splits between the languages as well. And usually I used to say we have a cross-border business in Switzerland as well. So we have some German-speaking companies, they do not deliver or they do not attack the French-speaking part of Switzerland, even if it's the same country. So language is an issue. Forget about the Roman language in your business. That's not important. French, German, Italian is the most important. Then just a short, Anna raised it somewhere as well. So Switzerland is let's say a design, a quality country. They like to have good quality in products, good price, of course, as well, but they are willing to pay a little more if they really get the quality they want to have. And then, last but not least, what you all know is that we are a cheese country, that we are a chocolate country. What you probably don't know is that we are a coffee country as well. So our exports, we have 2 times more coffee exports than chocolate, which seems to be a surprise. I will give you the solution afterwards. And we export 4 times more coffee in terms of value than cheese. So what is the reason for it? The reason for it is what you have seen probably on the slide before. It's the Nespresso. Nespresso is all production in Switzerland, and every coffee capsule you drink from espresso comes from Switzerland, and that's why we are a coffee country as well, not just chocolate and milk and cheese. So what about the market, the retail market? What you see here is the total retail market about the last 30 years. And what is interesting is that we had a decline over the last 10 years. Obviously, we had a negative development in retail market. Why is it that way? It's the way the Swiss franc is behaving. So we have a very strong Swiss franc. There was a time when you had to pay about 160 Swiss franc for €1. Today we are close to €1, 1 Swiss franc. And this has increased price pressure within Switzerland tremendously. Online has played a role as well, of course, but the strong Swiss francs has made imports much cheaper, and retail, with the competition we have in the market, has decreased prices. So there is a huge price pressure in Switzerland right now as well. It's still higher prices than in other countries. I come to that point as well. So let's talk about cross-border shopping. When you take this 91 billion Swiss francs retail volume within Switzerland, we have about 10 billion cross-border shopping. So 10 billion means tourism, going to a town close to our border, buying our food in Germany or in France. So a lot of people in Switzerland do the cross-border shopping physically or online as well. What do they shop cross-border? Here we have an inquiry done last year, second half of the year. So what you don't find here is the food, because food is not really bought online. And this was more focused on our online business. So what they don't buy abroad is consumer electronics. Why that? In Switzerland, you probably can buy the cheapest consumer electronics in Europe, even cheaper than probably in Portugal. But they like to buy abroad clothing, sports goods, etc. And that's all. It is all thing to do with the price level which you find in foreign countries. So people buy cross-border physically and online. So when we go to the e-commerce market, we had a volume of 10.3 billion Swiss francs last year in total, including 2 billion cross-border shopping online. So we have close to 20% of the consumption, online consumption, is cross-border consumption. I come to the detailed figures afterwards. Where do they buy? What do they buy? And why is it that strong? When we take the development, we have regular, steady development over the last years. This year will be exceptional growth due to COVID. I will explain that a little bit later. What it was special last year was that the consumption grew much more within Switzerland than on cross-border online shopping. The past few years we had increases by about 20% every year in cross-border online shopping. Last year it declined a little bit. So we had a higher growth within Switzerland, which is good for Swiss companies, of course, and which is interesting development. But we already have this 20% of cross-border online shopping. We have strong development compared to total retail. I think it's in every county the same. You have let's say stagnating, declining turnover in total retail or in department store, brick and mortar retail, and increasing in online retail. Switzerland is very special in terms of differentiation between food and non-food. So we have close to 70% of non-food sales within Switzerland going online. So it's quite a strong percentage. We have quite a low percentage in terms of food, where we only have about 1 billion Swiss francs going online. Why that? Switzerland is dominated by two brick and mortar players in food, Migros and Coop, and they are almost in every village. There's still a brick and mortar store for food. Second point is logistics costs for food in Switzerland are quite high, as we have high salaries and high transactional costs within online food. So that's also a reason why this percentage is very low. The good news for you is half of this 1 billion turnover online business is coffee and wine. So wine is very popular to be bought online. So the normal food, the daily food, is not very strong online. So this is the development over the last few years. I had a bet running for 2020, telling people we will hit 20% non-food online retail in 2020. I think we will hit it. It's this year the COVID impact, and I'm quite sure that I will win the bet that we get the 20%. What are the assortments? Home electronics is dominating. We are very strong. There's a very strong Swiss market for home electronics. And then it's probably, as in every country, fashion, shoes, food, home and living, books, media, and all the other assortments which are following. Here we have broken down some home electronic shares in online retail compared to total retail. What you see is that all this IT equipment is very popular to be bought online. In total, we are already 2019, we have been close to 36%. This year, it could be with the COVID crisis that it will be more than 45%. What happened online in March, April, and May was just crazy in Switzerland. These are the online shares, home and lifestyle in general. Sports goods, 16% has been bought online. Fashion shoes, with close to 20%, is increasing every year. What is the Corona impact? We have a monthly statistics where we cover about 50 to 60% of the B2C market. So we had a very strong increase already in March, half month, a lockdown of the brick and mortar stores. There you see multimedia, home electronics, 50% plus against previous year, sports, etc. So it was already quite a strong month, and in April it was even stronger. I'm expecting a plus of about 60%, May still about 40%, and for the whole year we're calculating with 25 to 30% plus in terms of online business. We had a critical situation in beginning of April, as Swiss Post was not able to deliver anymore the volumes our members wanted to ship, so they tried to bring in quotas for every company. We then found a solution to work around after 1 week of quotas, and the situation has relieved a little bit. So when we compare it with other countries, what we see is that Switzerland is behaving ordering very strongly online, and we had really a huge jump in online sales, and these online sales are still strong even after the reopening of the shops. So we still are on a very high level right now, and we are expecting it to be continued. So we had developed our own Corona scenarios for Switzerland. What you see here is the green one was the most likely expected scenario about 3 weeks ago. Today I would correct it already. The relaunch was much stronger than we expected for the brick and mortar stores. And it looks like Switzerland is again a little bit special compared with other countries. People are consuming like hell right now. Even you don't know what's coming over the next month. The red line is the W scenario we try to calculate. We don't hope that it will take place. It was just for us let's say the red line scenario where we don't want to be. I think it's the same for your country as well. So what are the top online retailers in Switzerland? I don't talk about Migros and Coop and so on, the real brick and mortar companies. We have, interesting wise, Zalando, which is a textile company, which is the biggest one in Switzerland. Meanwhile, close to 1 billion Swiss franc turnover, absolutely dominating the fashion and accessories market in Switzerland. So if a fashion company wants to get a foot into the doorstep, we usually recommend to get on the Zalando platform to get into the market. It's the easiest way right now. Then we have Swiss company Digitec. It's meanwhile a billion company because Digitec and on 10th place Galaxus is one company, and there are over 1 billion in total in 2019. And then already you see Amazon. Amazon is very strong, but it's not the strongest one as in other countries. And the fourth, the ranking is already AliExpress, and a little bit further down you will see Wish.com as well. So we have these platforms from China which are unbelievable strong, attacking the market like hell in Switzerland, which is a problem for us as well. Then we have the Nespresso, we have some Swiss companies doing very well in Switzerland. On the right-hand side, you see the top 15 B2B. It's more the electronics part where you have the big players. Those are mostly Swiss players there. So if you are looking to get into business for electronics, home electronics, but also so I'm looking for the name. I forgot the name about the what you do in your house, brick and mortar things. There are some big names on this list. What about marketplaces? Here is a mix of travel tickets and other platforms. So Swiss Flying Booking is very popular. SBB is the railway institution in Switzerland. Then the first big Swiss marketplace is Mercado, which was an auction originally, like eBay. Today, it's more a platform where everybody can onboard and sell his products. It has become a platform for professional sellers, online sellers as well. On the right-hand side, I have listed the top shopping marketplaces. Amazon, Wish, AliExpress, you've seen before. Then with Mercado, Galaxus is a popular one, is strongly growing right now, expanding to Germany as well. And these are the most popular platforms we have. What is the Amazon factor, which obviously is an issue again and again? Amazon is available in Switzerland under the domains from Germany, France, UK, and Italy, but not Amazon.com. So Swiss consumer never can buy directly from Amazon.com. This has to do with the VAT obligation, which has been implemented last year for Amazon. So they decided themselves to cut off Amazon from Switzerland, and then you have to buy from Germany, France, etc. So the market is still there, but not from .com. Amazon is a big player, but it's really not the biggest one in Switzerland, and they are not really attacking in terms of marketing Switzerland. So they are open for business. They are open to deliver their own assortment, but they don't open the marketplace shops for Switzerland. So a marketplace shop on Amazon.de has to organize its customs procedure, etc. himself. So they don't offer a customs duty solution of Amazon, and this is quite special. So you have some customs and VAT issues if you're a marketplace dealer on Amazon who wants to deliver to Switzerland. So the consequence is that some marketplaces do not deliver to Switzerland. They just deny to deliver to Switzerland because for them it's too complicated. They don't want to hassle with Switzerland. They don't want to do returns in Switzerland, etc. What has happened then, as a consequence, there is a guy has invented a platform doing all the imports into Switzerland out of the marketplace shops. So if you, as a Swiss, want to import from Amazon and the marketplace dealer doesn't allow you, you can go through this address meineinkauf.ch, which helps you to get the import done. So probably you are on a platform like Amazon with your products and you don't want to do all this custom stuff yourself. You could give a hint to this platform to your consumers in Switzerland. Please, if you want to be, if you want to shop on my Amazon, whatever marketplace, you can order through meineinkauf.ch, which is quite easy and well working right now. We have another cross-border impact. I call it the Chinese wave, and here you see the development of the Chinese parcel injection into Switzerland. We had a record high of 23 million parcels injected into Switzerland in 2018. To compare with the total volumes of our members, including Zalando, Nespresso, etc., we have about 55 million parcels a year. So in terms of parcels, this is a tremendous volume. Fortunately, last year it decreased by 5% in terms of number of parcels, but we had to calculate, or our observation told us that the goods within the parcels are more expensive. So consumers they are willing to buy more expensive goods on these platforms like Wish, AliExpress, etc. Second or third point is that last year this was this VAT regulation for new VAT regulation for low consignment. I'll come to that point later, which led to a lower import ratio as well. But what you see here, consumers in Switzerland are really, really willing to buy abroad, and they are chasing opportunities, and they are open, and they are willing to spend money to get products from other countries. So let's get more deeper into Switzerland. So I start with quite a general remark.
Mr. Kessler, please.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, just to interrupt you, but we have questions, and maybe you can answer these questions right now, because these questions are regarding the Chinese sales.
Yeah.
Someone asks, the Chinese sales are increasing while Europe and Americas are decreasing. This trend is expected to continue?
I expect the trend to continue on a high level, not increasing anymore. Maybe I have to make a remark to that point. So right now, Chinese import whatever they can under the 65 Swiss francs low consignment level. So they don't have to consider customs and duty, VAT, etc. So it's very easy for them to import into Switzerland. And that has caused a wave of these parcels. The second point is the UPU parcel conditions are very favorable towards Chinese exporters, and we were fighting for years against these disadvantage for Swiss companies and the advantage for the Chinese companies. And all these factors are being corrected in the future. So there will be legislation to make AliExpress and Wish and liable for VAT. So this would probably increase the obstacle to get into Switzerland. So this will increase the prices as well, because in 2018 you could order for $2 from China, and it simply didn't make sense. So but what we are expecting is that the consumers become more trustful towards the products and are willing to spend a little bit more for a product, because the price difference is still impressive. So if you still have something for half or a third of the price, and you know there is quality behind, they will order there, I'm sure. And that's why we say probably the number of transactions will decrease, but the value of the goods imported will probably increase. And that's what my predictions are. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please, go ahead.
So the price island, and Anna raised it somehow as well. I think Switzerland is still somehow a price island. We still have some assortments which are much more expensive to buy in Switzerland than in other countries. This is especially for food, because the food market is still somehow protected. But then there are other products like beauty cosmetics. Sometimes in the fashion industry, we have huge pricing differences. Whereas in consumer electronics, Switzerland is probably the cheapest country to buy a laptop or to buy a TV because of the low VAT rate we have in Switzerland. So for you, it means, yes, you can have higher prices in Switzerland. On the other hand, you will have higher costs as well. We'll talk about it as well. On the right-hand side, the Big Mac index, which shows usually how in proportion how expensive a Big Mac would be in Switzerland compared with other countries. I actually haven't found anything about Portugal in the index. I don't know where you would be, but I would assume that you would be probably close to Germany from the price level. Then you saw it already on Anna's presentation as well. What is the purchasing power? And this purchasing power is very high. Only in Liechtenstein it's higher in Europe. And on the other hand, what you have to know is marketing costs, delivery costs, labor costs, and everything, the rent for a store and so on, is higher. And that's why at the end of the day, you probably need a higher price to be able to survive in Switzerland, to get a margin out of Switzerland. And people live here with, let's say, 10, 20, 30% price differences. They get crazy and they start to argue once your price difference is then really up to 50, 100%, then they really ask questions. So I just want to give you somehow a little bit of feeling about prices, and there are differences between the assortments, but you have to be aware you have to ask usually a little bit higher prices in Switzerland to be able to survive. Now the checklist, 10 ticks before you start anything in Switzerland, and this is kind of a summary what we'll follow afterwards. And I don't go to every detail in here. I will show up the checklist again at the end of the presentation. But before you start spending money, ask you these questions. Try to tick this list, and then you start to spend money when attacking the Swiss market. I would like to start with the non-EU factor. So Anna raised the issue as well. We are out of Europe basically in terms of customs. So we have still the border where you have to declare and to pay customs duty, and then there comes another special issue for Switzerland. So Switzerland is the only country, according to Wikipedia, which is working with the weight for customs duty calculation. So it's not the value as you are used to, it's the weight. So what does that mean? As a fashion importer into Switzerland, you have to weight your t-shirts, your shoes, your bags, etc. And then the duty is calculated on the weight of your product. So this is then on the list. Tick if you know what your weight of your product is, and then you will be able to do all the import procedures as a company, because this is basic to be able to import into Switzerland. And then there is a but. If the consumer is importing your product, so if you let the consumer do all the customs the payment of the customs duty, then the value is the base. So I take then let's say a marketplace on Amazon offering something for 100 Swiss francs. So you can ship it to Switzerland. But then happens the weird thing, which is customs in Switzerland will stop the parcel. They will take the parcel, take the value, and then they will ask the customer to pay customs duty and VAT based on this value. So this is an issue which is not very well accepted by Swiss consumers, but you could do it. I usually recommend that you don't get into this situation, and I will give you 2 tips how to get around it. Then the second point on the list is VAT. So what you have to be aware of, if you really want to import yourself into Switzerland, being the importer and being the seller in Switzerland, the VAT Swiss system is not participating at the mini one-stop or the one-stop shop for VAT from 2021 on. So you would then be on a separate VAT declaration for Switzerland. We as an association try to push politicians to get Switzerland access to this one-stop shop to ease the VAT procedures. But you have to be aware, if you are the importer and you want to be the seller within Switzerland, you have to be compliant with VAT within Switzerland, and there is no easy way to just do the declaration. What could you do about it? So of course you could stock some of your items within Switzerland and ship from there. That's always a case. On the other hand, this is probably not the way you want to start with. And then it's better to choose the option 2, where we have this specialized fulfillment partner, DHL, you know them, DPD, Ascendia, which is Swiss Post, or other professional operator. I will give you some names afterwards, fulfillment provider, which helps you to do the whole process. Option 3 is the low value consignment possibility. This is very special in Switzerland as well. So we have quite a high value. You could import without any formalities. It's 65 Swiss francs. So you can ship almost anything within to Switzerland, which is has a value lower than 65 Swiss francs. But you are not allowed to make a turnover more than 100,000 Swiss francs a year with these products. So when you are within these conditions, you can ship without any formal duty and VAT procedure. This is called the low value consignment regulation in Switzerland. However, you have to know this will be challenged by the government within the next years as well. The reason for that is the Chinese wave with 500 million turnover coming into Switzerland. Switzerland, of course, is interested to raise the VAT question on these imports as well. But for the time being, it could be an option for you to test the market if you have the values below 65 Swiss francs. Otherwise, you have to get into a procedure to declare properly. Regulation. Anna has raised the issue as well, but don't be afraid. Regulation in Switzerland is, let's say, a little bit easier going. It's less regulation than you know out of Europe. So first of all, EU regulation does not apply in Switzerland. We have our own regulation. We don't follow every regulation. Right now, we are following the data protection regulation. It's in the process of being established. But usually, there is no way that we have to follow it. Important for online business, we don't have the right of withdrawal in Switzerland in our regulation. So there is no similar way of regulation, such as it is in the EU. But we, as an association, we asked our members to offer a right of withdrawal of 14 days according to EU. So we are not regulation. We can. It's not mandatory, but all our members, which then will show the Swiss Online Guarantee Trust Mark, they have to follow kind of a similar regulation to Europe. So if you're used to European terms and conditions, usually you're fine within Switzerland. So don't be afraid of it. It's just important to know. The second point, which is then more a soft fact, is Swiss consumers are spoiled. The expectations are very high. So even if there is no regulation, we have high competition. The high competition level enforces very attractive terms and conditions, 30 days, right of return, etc. So companies invent all the time what they could do for the customer to be at the first row when the customer wants to buy in their shop. So regulation is not EU, it's not compliant, but don't be afraid. It's not a very complicated thing in Switzerland. I will give you some examples where you have to watch out, but basically it's much easier than in other countries. Here you have some links. It's within Switzerland, we call it the Code of Obligation. In theory, you wouldn't need terms and conditions in an online shop. So there is no obligation to have a terms and condition section in your online shop. But we recommend, we have a mini standard we offer to all our members. What about consumer protection? There is a link to an overview. You can have a look at it. It's never that strong as in Europe. What you probably have to be a little bit attentive is to the price declaration. There is a helpful guide you find. And again, usually Switzerland is not a suing country, which is suing everything to court like Germany. So it's quite pragmatic how we do things. The product liability regulation, data protection regulation are linked as well. So we expect a new data protection regulation for 2021. It's now about to be finished and it will be very close to the EU regulation. We insisted on not having Swiss finish in the regulation. So once you follow the EU rules, you're fine. So I mentioned it, watch out. There is special regulation for food. There is special regulation for wooden products. So the wood declaration is somehow important. Then fur, it's not very popular anymore, but still if you have some fur on fashion, it's a special regulation. And for electronics, home electronics, plugs, voltage, etc., there you would have to consider some special regulation. I heard there is somebody in the webinar jewelry. There is for gold, silver, jewels. There is a special regulation as well. So just get in touch with me if you need more information about these regulations. Where to find it? You will find a lot of regulation under these links. What do we offer as an association to make a little bit promotion for our association as well? So we offer a mini standard terms and conditions in French and German for shops doing business in Switzerland. We offer a mini standard data protection privacy declaration for our web shops. So you just can use it and you're more or less compliant. And then we do a compliance quick check of our members' web shops if they're compliant with the regulation, but also with our own code of conduct, what we ask there. Now, fulfillment service providers, I come back to this point, VAT customs. So I raised the DHL, the DPD, the postal providers. They are probably solution providers for you. Of course, there are solution providers, but there are some really, really specialized companies on doing these processes. So there is the first one. It's MS Direct. It's a Swiss-owned company. They're doing mail order online for over 30 years now, and they have been specialized on this import-export of foreign countries. So they have customers like Zalando, Home24, which is furniture, etc. And they really are specialists in all these processes, and they offer you solutions to get in and to get out of Switzerland with your products. Then we have a German-based company called Renus, which is an international player, very strong presence in Switzerland. They are already also focused on then freight and fulfillment. So Renus would also bring your items from Portugal or wherever it is to Switzerland and do the fulfillment, etc. Whereas the first one is more a fulfillment processor with high experience. Then probably you know Fique, which is a German-based international player, quite strong in Switzerland as well. Then the fourth one, probably, if you really want to be in the market with your own or with a kind of a stock of your warehousing, some items, then I could recommend this ASVAD Swiss distribution center for online companies. So you could, I would say, for a very good price, do some stocking in their warehouse and do the fulfillment for you out of Switzerland, which is an option as well. Then, of course, we have all these solution providers like Swiss Post or DHL. UPS is looking for full volumes as well. So they're just a sample of service providers. Then I was asked to get some potential for B2B2C partner for wholesale. Right now, we have some of course some issues. The marketplaces like Amazon is not really offering you the import. So how could you do a B2B2C then say in Switzerland? For food, we have some. Besides the big ones, Migros and Co., we have some companies doing very interesting concepts, also with international partners. The one is Gebana on CH, so you can check all these sites. If you want to get into the market with a distribution company, having access to consumers. Wine, and I saw there are quite a few companies in the webinar which are selling wine. So there is very special. I checked it again yesterday. There's still a quota for wine, and you can see how many liters are allowed. So I think it's about 170 million liters quota a year. It's by far not away right now. It's still open, the quota, but there is somehow a restriction in terms of wine. But it's possible, and Swiss people love wines from all over the world, and I think especially Spain and Portugal are becoming more and more popular for Swiss wine drinkers. So what companies could help you to distribute in Switzerland in terms of wine, and there are much more, but I just took the three which seemed for me very interesting from various aspects. The first one, Schwandl Selection. He's a master of wine, and he's really selecting wines and then selling a very few wines, but in quite big quantities. So if you're a wine producer and you think, ooh, I have a nice and whatever wine and can sell some big quantities, he's really specialized on I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different wines, and then selling big quantities, more high level, price level, not the cheap ones. He's then really looking for special, how to say, special brands and special producer. He's telling the story about the producer, etc. Very interesting concept he's trying to realize. Then more in the mass, more the big ones producing his own brands, but with wines from other countries, getting the wine from somewhere in Portugal, Spain, wherever. It's Schuler. It's a very big company doing a lot of online direct sales in Switzerland. More, I would say, more in the mass market than trying to do his own brands with products from wherever it comes from. The third one is Flash and Post. This one is then the most, let's say, the assortment is very wide. So he usually tells people we have the broadest assortment of wines. So we have all different possibilities of wines, but he's always looking for new, discovering new wines. He's telling stories with a mailing and with email every month. And this could be a solution for somebody who has already his brand and is looking for a distribution channel just for a certain number of quantity and not the big quantities. But again, if you are interested in looking for opportunities, let us check afterwards. I have more there. There are really a lot of wine companies doing online business and also brick and mortar business in Switzerland. Hardware electronics, if you want to get into the market, you would have to get into Brack Microspot and fashion, and this is a little bit a pity. In Switzerland, we really don't have big fashion players offering you a platform. Right now, it's more the Zalando platform dominating the market. So if you're selling bags or shoes or whatever, if you get into the Zalando platform and make it feasible to get into Switzerland with the custom duty, you're probably on the right place with this platform. And then you have these, as I said, these marketplaces like Mercado, etc., where you could launch your own product, test it, whether it works or not. A lot of opportunities, but also a lot of challenges then to be successful. Payment, so important in Switzerland, very special. We love invoices. What does that mean? So about 80% of our transactions are delivered against invoices. So it's not paid. So we deliver and then people pay afterwards, after getting delivered. For some countries, it sounds unbelievable, but that's how Switzerland works. And it's important to make good business in Switzerland to offer the invoice as a payment method. It seems to be old-fashioned, but people love it. We pay our tax, we pay health insurance, we pay train tickets, etc. against invoice, and it works in Switzerland. Here I have the preferences in online retail. You see what's offered. So invoice is offered very often and used very often. Credit card is offered very often, but not used in retail. When we switch to services, tickets, train tickets, airline, etc., then you would have credit card. So it's really a retail issue, a B2C and also a B2B issue. Invoice is really important in Switzerland. On the other hand, we have all the tools to control the solvability of the consumers. So there are these check and balances in the system, but important for you to know to offer it to your consumers. To give you an example, probably you know all Sarenza, the French shoe shop. So when they started in Switzerland, they just offered credit card, and I told them, look, you will double your turnover once you open the invoice for your consumers. And at a certain moment of time, they really opened up for invoice, and they more than doubled turnover, because there are still some people not having a credit card or not wanting to use the credit card in Switzerland. That's then our cultural and historical background probably, and the invoice is just dominating. So I recommend you to take it into consideration. Then you have all the famous ones available as well. The special one is the Twint. It's a mobile payment a new mobile payment just designed for Switzerland. I'm not so sure yet whether it will hit the markets. At the end of the day, they are quite aggressive right now. But basically, you're fine with your providers. You can get into the markets and you can make good business with this Master, Visa, PayPal as well. Here are the links to the acquiring companies. Important thing to know, in Switzerland we have a payment service provider which is close to a monopolist, which is between the acquiring companies and the consumers and the Visa Master issuer. So this one is, I would say, the one and only you have to take and to do the onboarding for payment as well. So this is not wrong. The hint to chapter 6 is not correct anymore. I switched some chapters to make it more fluent. But those are the links where you can get information about the payment service providers. When talking about invoices, so we also have outsourcing providers for invoices within Switzerland. And here are the service providers. You can get in touch with them. What do you pay for such a service? It depends on the product you sell and the risk they run. But it starts around 1%. It can go up to 1.5%, 2%. Depends a little bit on the product you're selling. If you really want to start in Switzerland from scratch, you don't have any experience, we recommend to join such a partner for the start. Delivery options. Switzerland is dominated by Swiss Post. Come to the market shares, the next slide. Important is the increase of speed delivery. So 60% of the parcels of our members are delivered next day, meanwhile. So we are increasing speed every year. In earlier times, it was this eco slow delivery, which took 2 days up to 3 days. I'm sure eco will probably disappear or remain as a niche product, and Prio will dominate the market. Evening delivery is more and more popular. There are a lot of tests ongoing. Swiss Post is somehow hesitating to push evening delivery, so we have alternative companies offering evening delivery or same-day delivery. Will be definitely a trend over the next year in Switzerland as well. So what is the market? So as I said, you probably will not come around Swiss Post, which is about 80% of the market in B2C, but also in B2B, it's up to 75% market share. Swiss Post, I would definitely recommend to get in touch with them once you need postal service providers. Then we have the DHL, DPD, and some others. Right now, we have really a strong initiative from the company called Quick Pack. It's pure green electric delivery, 100% electric vehicles. They have already 30% of coverage of Switzerland and made a tremendous job within the COVID crisis and are increasing constantly to 90% of coverage of Switzerland, which is then really most of the country. I mean, 10% is then really the mountain valleys and far away from any peripheric environment. Then we have some startups, no time looker box. So if you are more in local environments, brick and mortar stores, they use those same day delivery by cargo bikes. We have really this trend to ecological deliveries in Switzerland as well. The most important thing compared to other countries is we have more than 90% of the orders are delivered at home. We have so-called, we call it the milk box. See it at Zalando. Zalando has designed a parcel which fits in this milk box. It was used earlier times to deliver 1 liter of milk to the households. It's even in our regulations. So we have a regulation about this mail milk box. And that helps postal providers to deliver at first attempt at close to 95%. And that's why home delivery is so important in Switzerland. We have this ecological impact, so we have a lot of discussions about the material for the parcels, about the delivery issues, etc. So people become more and more aware of these issues, and we address it as an association, and companies are addressing as well with their strategies. So probably the most important thing is then how to attack the Swiss market, and I can't go into any detail here, but of course we have Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. as well. So it's all the same wherever you go over the world. You have to consider these advertising channels in Switzerland, and you have this link to the most visited websites, and there are about 50 pages just about how to do advertising using digital tools in Switzerland, which you find under this link. But important for you to know is Switzerland is still a TV and a print country. So we have quite a lot of print, newspaper as well, print, advertising, and TV is still obviously doing very well. This has to do with the strong position of Swiss Post, having a lot of home delivery with mails, and it's just somehow old-fashioned, I have to be honest, but it works. And then we have strong Swiss TV station, which is important for our population. So we are slow to change the habits. That's just a fact. Probably that's a kind of a saturation of Swiss people, that they are very well, and there is money is not an issue here, and so you get somehow a little bit slower to do new things. On the other hand, we are I think the most populated, or the country with the most Apple iPhone penetration in the world. So we are always on the newest devices. Mobile first is very important in Switzerland as well. So it's kind of how to say, it's not absurd, but on the one hand we love paper, and on the other hand we love digital devices, but it gives you opportunities as well. Important to know, advertising in Switzerland is very expensive. So be aware that you pay twice as much for a digital campaign, paper, whatever campaign, TV. It's expensive. Especially in the German-speaking part. In the French-speaking part, it's a little bit cheaper, and it's already very cheap in the Italian-speaking part. So we have kind of three markets, but on the other hand, you then have to translate everything into Italian and so on. But for the main market, German, the biggest market, which is about 2/3 of the population, it's twice as expensive as in Germany, in France, etc. So be aware of it. Maybe what in terms of news portal advertising, it's 20 minutes. It's a newspaper for free, high penetration. You saw it on the list before. And then you have a lot of other newspapers, portals, but at the end of the day, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and so on are dominating the digital world as well. Here you see the development of the marketing channels used. So you see internet, yes, it's increasing, but you see it's strong. It's still strong to have advertising in TV and print, and out of home is quite popular as well. That's the figures of 2019 compared to 2008. And here the biggest spenders, how much do they spend? I mentioned the names 2 or 3 times already. Coop and Migros are the biggest retailers. But then you see already the e-bookers, Digitech, the online companies doing really marketing on a high level as well. And these are really, really high values they spend to be present. So I'm more or less done. It was a run, a speed run through Switzerland. I come back to this checklist. So before you start your plans, do some basic checks. Does my product suffer from any customs restrictions? I raised it. Food and beverage at some point could be an issue. If you want to import parcel by parcel, if you want to do the bulk import, sometimes it's easier. Then you have this perfume, soap, beauty products, jewelry, plugs, wood. So just check it, make a check. Is it possible or not? If it's possible, yes. If it's difficult to solve, check it and tick it then. The weights, depending on the way you import into Switzerland, do I have weights of my products? Can I use it for this customs duty calculation? Will I be VAT? Is it mandatory? What language? I saw somewhere a question, what is the most important language? I mean, just be aware the French consumers will never visit a German-speaking website. They are focused on the French-speaking part. The French will never visit the German-speaking site, or the other way around. The German will never visit the French-speaking site. So be clear where you go. Decide whether you want to do 1 or 2 languages, or even 3, which I wouldn't do to start with. And at some point, it could be an opportunity to just attack the French-speaking part of Switzerland, because, as I said, advertising costs are lower. They are more, let's say, the Latin way of living, and probably that's the better market to start with. And we have a lot of members doing almost exclusively business in the French-speaking part, and struggling to attack with the same concepts, the German-speaking part. And that's why I say, be very clear on what you do, and rethink whether it's the best to do the German-speaking part or to the French-speaking part. Then the product declaration issue. So if you sell food, electronics, etc., be aware you have to declare it in our language. There is an official language like German, Italian, or French, so people can understand what the product is consists of. Then returns, if you're in fashion, how to get the returns back to Portugal, or if you really want to get them back, how can I do the re-export and return customs, which is not to be underestimated. Pricing, do you really ask yourself the question, can I do the Swiss surcharge? Because you probably need it to be successful, to cover your transactional costs, to cover the advertising costs, etc. Be honest with yourself, compare it in a market. I think you will need a certain Swiss surcharge to sell online your products. Payment was in there, and the regulation is different. And there you have a help in terms of retail. You can approach us. We have some standards which could help you. Here you will find some studies about the market. We will publish next week. Unfortunately, we had to postpone the Omnichannel Readiness Index for 2020. There is one available for 2019. The new one we will publish next Friday in a webinar with Google. You can download the information there in English. There are a lot of information about players and behavior of consumers. Facts and figures are available in French. And there is an e-commerce report about Switzerland, a qualitative approach, not a figure approach, interviews with experts, which is in French, and a summary available in English as well. If you have any question, do not hesitate to get in touch, ask us. I will now try to answer as many questions as possible. Get in touch with us, write us. We try to help you as far as we can. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to have so many participants in the webinar. I know how tough it is to follow 1.5 hours, but open to questions. Let's go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kessler. It was very interesting and very going too deep in the Swiss market. We have some questions more. I would start by broader questions, and then we will try to get into details. There is a broader question concerning B2B commerce. The question is, in custom duties are only calculated according to the weight in B2B commerce.
Yes,
this is the first one, and in the case of B2C commerce, they are already calculated according to the value of the good. Is this correct?
So, yeah, good question. I have to try to be precise again. So, if you are the importer, so let's take, say, Portugal Fashion is importing T-shirts to Switzerland, and Portugal Fashion is the importer, so going through the whole customs procedure, they would then have to declare the weight to calculate the customs duty to get the products into Switzerland. So, or I take the example of Zalando. Zalando is behaving within Switzerland like a Swiss company. They have a zalando.ch domain, they sell in Swiss francs, they declare VAT, etc. So they behave like a Swiss company. What they have to do is they have to bring all the items from Germany or Italy or France to Switzerland. So they do a cross-border transaction. They declare what is on this truck, what is in these parcels. They have to give the weight of every piece in these parcels, which is very strange, which we tried to fight against for years now, but it's still the case right now. So you are the importer, you are the seller, so then you have to declare the weight of these products. There are a few exemptions. I think wine, etc., is volume, and there are some other exemptions, but most of it is based on the weight. So now let's change to the customer import side. So if you say, if you tell your customer you buy on the Portuguese side, Portuguese fashion.pt, you buy here in euro, but you have to be aware we send it to Switzerland, but you have to bear some additional costs because you are the importer. So we send it with a Swiss Post, whatever provider, and then they do a customs declaration based on value. And you, as a private individual in Switzerland, are the importer of these goods, and then you get an invoice from Swiss Post or DHL or whoever telling you now you have to pay probably customs duty or VAT. And that's the differentiation between the processes. So now, what are the alternatives between? There are alternatives that you take a fulfillment service provider, which does all the processes for you, which even offers you a kind of a tax. How is it called? A tax. Don't have the name. So that you don't have to establish a company in Switzerland, but you can have a kind of a tax number, but you are always the importer, and the other one is just responsible to declare VAT, etc. is doing the job for you. But still, you have to have the weight in these processes.
Okay. We've talked about wine. There are companies here that produce, not exactly wine, but spirits. And we have a question of a company that produces gins.
Okay.
And we are a small company that produces internationally awarded gins, and we have even sold some units into Switzerland through a local partner. For a small company like ours, what is the best way to enter your market?
That's always the big question. So if you're, let's put it that way. If you are in a niche, offering a beverage, probably smaller quantities, high prices, I would really select a high-level niche player within Switzerland to resell your product. There is basically no, let's say, food or drink platform, or I don't know about it, which could help you to be your own market, or which could be your marketplace to sell your products directly to the consumer. I mean, I would definitely try to use a B2B, a reseller within Switzerland, and I have some names in mind for gin, whatever whiskey. There are some some really, let's say, well-known names. If you want to go into the mass, you would have to choose another one. So if you really want to have a mass product, I would then recommend you to approach the Coop Micro. There is Landi. There are 4 or 5 big players in the game selling alcoholic beverages as well. But as long as you're in the niche, I would stay focused on kind of, as I mentioned, probably Flaschenpost. There is another name called Martel in Switzerland, which is more on a high level wine and whiskies and gins and so on. And I think they have all the customer connections. They have the tools to promote your product, and if they are convinced of your product, they will help you to sell higher quantities in Switzerland.
Okay, so
probably here, just get in touch with me and we have a chat and give you some more names about possibilities today.
Perfect. Well, we'll stick to this food and beverages, I would say, business. And we have a question concerning pre-cooked products. How can we access the Swiss market?
So pre-cooked means kind of vacuumated. You just put it into the micro and heat it, or is it pre-cooked? Okay. So if you're in that market, that's a good question. Pre-cooked. I mean,
only difficult questions.
Oh yeah, of course. Otherwise, they would be here. What is pre-cooked? I mean, who is selling pre-cooked? Is it? I mean, may I ask another question? Is it pre-cooked more for the B2C or then for the B2B at work, at the office, or?
Well, we can get back to Carlos Coutinho, who has asked the question. I don't know if he can clarify on this one.
If it's more B2C, you definitely would have to get in touch with the big players like Coop Micro, which are selling the big quantities in terms of food, home delivery, food. These are the big players. If you are more on the bio, vegetarian, vegan, etc. side, I would then go to the name I mentioned, like what is it, Mal & Co. and so on. Check it out whether they have the pre-cooked food. I'm not sure. Or you then go together with a B2B company. What we have is then the bio partner, which is a B2B company delivering to other stores the pre-cooked food. And the problem in Switzerland is that we have very high logistics and labor costs, and food itself is not very popular to be delivered. So probably this company would have to find a way to go to a brick and mortar store to be there in the assortment of Migros, Coop, Landi, whatever the name is then.
Okay, maybe you can put each other in contact to clarify some points concerning this subject. Changing completely of subject. Demand for air purifiers in Switzerland has increased due to the pandemic situation. You have any information concerning this specific product? And if the answer is yes, do Swiss consumers purchase this type of product from specialists, electronic stores, or online? A lot of questions in just one.
I would say this has probably increased as well in Switzerland. To be honest, I don't have the figures. I would have to check with GfK whether they have figures about air purifiers. What I know is from a member of us, it's called Stadler Form. They are producing or doing their own brands with it. That they are dramatically increasing the sale of this air purifying machineries in Switzerland. And they are selling also through marketplaces. It's obviously a product which is very well accepted by consumers to be bought on a marketplace. So I would give a yes. It's a topic. It's probably not the same such as in I don't know, in China and whatever, where you have the bad air and air pollution. But still there is a market, obviously, in Switzerland as far as I know, especially also in the office environment, that they start to bring in such air purifier machines. And yeah, there is a market, probably not that attractive such as it is in a city where you have a lot of air pollution, etc. What I heard about China, that this market is exploding there, it's probably not comparable to Switzerland.
Yeah. And a question of, well, a completely different subject. Concerning basically bags and accessories made in cork. Well, this is specific, very specific. What you recommend to a company that, well, in terms of online business, what you recommend to a company that produces this kind of product?
So I don't know really that I'm not a cork user, but I would assume cork would be then more probably to a biological environment.
Absolutely.
Biological stuff. So there are 2-3 minor platforms doing kind of, let's say, handicrafted or ecological selling. So this would be one approach. And the other approach, what I observe in Switzerland, which is working very well, is this Facebook-driven consumer advertising. So I will start with tests and taking your most popular product, trying to sell it directly to the consumer once you hit the right target group. And this is working, as far as I heard, quite well in Switzerland. So people are willing to buy through Facebook, probably Instagram as well. And then I would have to check what other companies do. Probably it's then kind of a bag niche player, which I know, which is trying to sell just bags. Probably that you get your small assortment in there. But I would definitely give it a try to go through this social selling, because it looks like it is quite a special target group you want to hit with such products.
Okay, and well, in this framework of bio products, we have a wine bio product, or wine producer, a bio wine producer. Do you have some information that you could share with us?
We have
bio wine.
Yes, I forgot to put it on the list. There is a company called Delegate, which is selling huge quantities in bio wines, and there is just bio wine selling online. He has some outlets in some towns, but he's usually online. And bio-ecological is definitely a topic in Switzerland. I think Switzerland or Swiss consumers are the ones who bought at very high prices if there is really a biological product. There is, of course, a targeted segment or a segment to get targeted, but there's definitely a target group in Switzerland willing to pay for it, probably willing to pay for the story behind the wine, and being on the safe side, it's really a biological wine. So in general, biological food is a hot topic for many years already in Switzerland. There are many.
Definitely an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that we run out of questions for now. This is the longest webinar that we made so far, so congratulations, Mr. Kessler.
Okay.
and thanks to our audience. Well,
thank you.
I will thank you very much for also to Anna. And we are. Okay, go ahead.
I've been looking into the questions. Então, talvez em português. Eu tenho estado a reparar nas perguntas e existem muitas na área dos vinhos, como já era expectável, e nós temos estado a trabalhar muito o setor alimentar e agroalimentar. Aliás, em conjunto com a AICEP em Lisboa, temos estado a promover o setor agroalimentar com um impacto o maior possível aqui na Suíça. E, portanto, recolhemos muita informação que estamos a enviar às empresas que nos vão solicitando. E eu penso que grande parte das questões que aqui foram sendo colocadas sobre a área de vinhos ou agroalimentar, com os inputs do Sr. Kessler e toda a informação que nós colhemos, podem ser perfeitamente respondidas. E, portanto, queria colocar-me à disposição para enviar a quem quiser as listas, os contactos, a informação, etc. Não só nessa área, mas particularmente nessa área onde temos recebido muitas questões. Obrigada.
Okay, perfeito. Muito obrigado. Well, sorry, Mr. Kessler.
Maybe just the last word. We had a talk before we started with Anna, and she said, she told me it's very complicated to get in touch with Swiss companies or to get the right people. And I just want to tell you, yes, it is sometimes very complicated, and Swiss people are sometimes a little bit special, whatever the reason is. But don't be frustrated, never give up. And I think people or companies are open to listen to you. Sometimes it takes more than one try to get in touch with them. Or what I can offer you, if you really want to have special information about a member, contact address of a member, I can do the connection. And the connections that helps you very much in Switzerland. And if I can do a short recommendation for somebody, just let me know. I will do it for you and try to increase the chance to get a real discussion with the company and an opportunity.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Bom, vamos encerrar então a sessão. Muito obrigado a todos por terem aguentado tanto tempo, porque é prova do vosso interesse. Muito obrigado. Ficamos naturalmente ao vosso dispor para esclarecer algumas questões que ainda tenham e agradeço também que estejam atentos às próximas comunicações sobre próximos webinars para outros mercados e para outros nichos de mercado que nós vamos continuar a fazer. Muito obrigado. Até à próxima. Bom dia.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.